pick, so it's hard to argue with his decision. But he was sort of out of sight, out of mind, but not out of sight for NBA scouts because he finds himself a top 25 player, and he's just, unfortunately, he's sort of an unknown. And this actually is a little bit of a precursor, Brandon, to what we may see in a couple of years if the one-done rule goes away. You could have players like this that we're not quite sure, and you're drafted out of high school.
Yeah, we're definitely not sure about him, but I have heard that he's very athletic, has a good first step, more of a slasher right now. So we'll see how he pans out. This is obviously a project pick. He's probably not ready to play right now. And then especially look at the fact that he didn't play basketball this year.
And remember this, Terrence Ferguson, just wanted to throw in, was a guy who was in a situation a couple years ago.
Yeah, but Terrence Ferguson went overseas and played basketball. This kid hasn't played basketball for a year.
And Tom, I want to ask you this as an executive. You know, he didn't go the traditional route. But if you can play, and you have your workouts. What do you think about that? I mean, because he didn't go the traditional route, but that doesn't mean he cannot be, in the sight of some of you guys as executive, be a pick that can help you.
It's the exact opposite of Grant Williams. This is all about potential. This is all about unknown upside. And they've obviously seen something they really like there. Now, they're a deep playoff team. They could be as good as anybody in the West. If Russell Westbrook ups his game and gets back to what he was, and Paul George, those two, that's a dynamic duo. Their other veterans may be on the move, so Sam Presti has the ability to take a guy and just develop him internally, and he could be something special. Pascal Siakam kind of talent maybe that just sort of evolves and pops later. This is a good time for them to take that kind of risk.
I would just say this. He wanted to play in the G League this past season. More than likely, he will next season.
Well, you mentioned Oklahoma City. They're an important team to bring up, and we haven't yet, because for those who, like we all are, reading reports and things that have come out over the last few days, there's been a lot of talk about the luxury tax and them getting underneath and finding a way to get rid of some of that money. Andre Roberson, obviously, Smitty, a guy that gets mentioned. Schroeder was interesting to me. Dennis played real well for them last year. Steven Adams' name has been tossed out as somebody that they're willing to listen on or maybe even actively talking about. Are you surprised to hear that? To Tom's point, the West is wide open, and you would think Oklahoma City would be thinking, what can we tweak to get better? The reports are they might be looking to unload some money.
Yeah, I think you can. And, knowing Sam Presti from in San Antonio, he's looking, like you say, maybe to have some room to be able to go add somebody. But I think for him is to what Tom said, and we all know, they have two dynamic players. Unfortunately for Paul George, in that second half of the season, he wasn't healthy, and I think that really hindered them.
I think to your point, we all have bosses, and it comes down to what your boss thinks is important. Sometimes when you're on a team and they're over the luxury tax, your boss will tell you, or the owner will say, hey, man, spend as much as you want to. I don't care. I just want to win. Sometimes your owner will tell you, hey, man, I don't like this high luxury tax bill I get. If you can, shed some salary. We're trying to save some money. This looks like one of those type of situations because they have a chance in the West, but they're trying to shed money. This has to come from up top.
I think it's actually more of a retool. How are they going to get different? I don't think this is as much money driven. Now, their $60 million is their tax bill. In addition to what they pay the players, they're going to have a $60 million hit as they stand right now. They have so much oil money down there. They're full of money. They've been willing to go for it. Clay Bennett's been a good owner that way. So I think they're going to keep spending in the tax. It's just going to I still think they're in go-for-it mode.
We talked about the trades, and I'll keep referencing this because eventually the guy to my left, you can't see Justin Kimberleft to get us a number, and it may double what we've ever seen. This is the second pick already that has been traded twice. So now the third team that has owned 24. So forget hats. I mean, you might have to have like badges like a Boy Scout of different logos on you. Because
Jared's gonna let him hats.
It was Philadelphia and then Boston just about 40 minutes ago. And then they traded it to Phoenix, who has been looking for a point guard. And they draft Ty Jerome, who we all love. But I'll go to you, Smitty, and ask you, because you and I were just talking about the fit and where he fits. And we were talking about one thing, he's really smart guy. Speed is not his thing.
No, it's not.
Is he a fit for Phoenix?
Yeah, I mean, because, he has some size. He can see over the defense. He's a winner. He's a competitor. We saw him play. He likes the big moment. He handles the basketball. Speed is a weakness of his. He's not a super athlete, but what he can do is score. He can flat out shoot it. He doesn't turn it over, and I like that he's a high basketball IQ player, and he can flat out be a strong spot-up shooter playing along, say, a Devin Booker.
For Andy Anthony, does he fit the Jalen Brunson model, different player of you just know that guy's going to be a winner at the next level?
I love the fact that he's a winner, and I love the fact that he can hit a shot. He does have excellent size. That can make up for the fact that he's not that quick. I'm not sure if I think Jalen Brunson. When I think of him, I think Darius Bazley. Remember Darius Bazley?
Maryland.
Really
Yes.
tall point guard from Maryland. Had some success in the league.
Yes.
Also had some injuries, but had a lot of success in the NBA as well. I see him being that type of guy. And when you're 6'5" and you're at the point, you don't have to be the fastest and quickest. You can control the game with your tempo and your size, and I think that Ty Jerome can do that.
One thing that you'll see with Tony Bennett players going forward, and obviously the ones we've seen coming through, all good passers. And we just saw in the highlights right there, he can feed into the post. He can certainly set you up on the wing. And so all those kinds of skills are certainly going to benefit him at the next level.
I love the fact that you said all Tony Bennett guys are all good passers, because when I talked to Malcolm Brogdon at the Final Four, he says Tony Bennett has a list of what he likes to call non-negotiables, and turnovers is on that list. If you turn the ball over, you cannot play. There are no excuses for turnovers. That's probably the reason why you see so many of his guys take care of the ball and pass it so well.
You know, the thing with Phoenix, obviously, for those who just joined us, is we've talked about some of the question marks about where they've been in this draft, because they were at 6. They traded down to 11. Cam Johnson ends up being the pick. So, again, we know, obviously, they have established players, B-Wood, when you think about Booker, Jackson, who continues, I know you know and love, to grow, Ayton. How about now Johnson, and when you add to him a Jerome, the two guys fitting into that mix?
Well, listen, we knew that Phoenix needed a point guard, so I think Jerome definitely fits. Cam Johnson was a bit of a surprise, but guess what? I think Cam Johnson helps you win right away just because of the skill set. He's polished, a little bit of an older player. Then you bring in the fact that Cam Johnson's able to put the ball on the floor. He's 6'9", and he can shoot it. So it was a little surprising with the way Phoenix went about it, but I do think they went and got two very good players.
I think they're both conservative moves where they go to Oklahoma City before, where they're sort of swinging for the fences with that pick. In this particular case, if you look at both, they're ready to play. You know what they're going to be. More limited upside, but the floor is higher. And let's face it, in Phoenix, they need a higher floor.
Yeah, they do. And I don't see them being in go mode right now.
No.
They're just trying to get along, and hopefully some of these guys can develop.
You know, Smitty, nothing obviously against any of the people or coaches they had, but we all know to some extent, you guys know to a great extent, a guy in Monty Williams who's one of the better people we have involved in the game of basketball. It's going to take time. They're going to still make picks and decisions, as Tom said before, where you're just used to it with Phoenix. How much can a coach start to imprint a different culture with a guy in Monty Williams?
I mean, as soon as they signed him, Monty Williams, you know, I love Monty. He's a guy that's been around this league. I played against him. He's going to change the culture right away because of his faith and what he believes in. Young guys with Monty Williams, they start to get better, and you can see them once they branch off, they go to other teams or stay with Monty, and they become better players and better people.
And I think it's important to say, both these guys, as you said, they're veteran players, also coming from tremendous programs in North Carolina and Virginia. And there's value. They've built up equity in that. So you know if you're getting a player coached by Roy Williams, coached by Tony Bennett, some of those non-negotiables you don't have to worry about, especially with a team that needs a lot of help.
I love the fact that you, with Monty, and talk about what he's going to do for the culture. I really do love. I think that he's going to reset the culture in Phoenix. He's going to make sure everybody understands that we might not win a lot of games, but we're going to go into every game with the right mindset. We've questioned Phoenix's mindset sometimes. Is their mindset to win or to get Devin Booker stats at some points? And that's something that you have to think about, that I don't think Monty Williams is going to allow that to happen. He's like, hey, we have to do things different, and we have to establish how we're going to win. And now after they do that, then it's up to the front office to put the best players in that team as possible.
And be fair, before we look at Portland, they also added Darius Bazley in that trade they made with picks. We all know at this table is a real good player, knows the game, and was third in Rookie of the Year voting just 2 years ago. For the Portland Trailblazers, what a big season, especially with their growth into the postseason, all without Nurkic. It serves up some optimism in Portland.
After losing 8 straight games over their previous 2 postseason appearances,
it's over. A stunning sweep of the number 3 seed.
the Portland Trailblazers made some noise in this year's playoffs. Despite losing starting center Jusuf Nurkic to a gruesome leg injury,
The left leg buckled, and he has a serious injury.
Portland advanced all the way to the Western Conference Finals before getting swept by Golden State. Damian Lillard earned second-team All-NBA honors and provided one of the moments of the year, sending the Thunder packing in dramatic fashion. backcourt mate C.J. McCollum averaged over 20 points for the 4th straight season. Several key contributors in their playoff run will hit free agency this summer, including Enes Kanter, Al-Farouq Aminu, Rodney Hood, and Seth Curry. Portland owns the 25th pick in this year's draft.
We await to see where the Trailblazers go with pick number 25. Tom, how about, we know Dame obviously at the forefront of it, but just what the players, Terry Stotts and that group did this year, taking steps they hadn't taken.
What a great run. I mean, that backcourt is nasty and proven. They continue to get better. They probably have another year or two of improving together. And Portland's in go-for-it mode. Back to the theme of this. You know, whose duo is going to win out in this? As we've talked about what Oklahoma City has, we now know what the Lakers have. It's going to be a fascinating run, but they're right in the middle of this.
Well, in the middle of things for a change, it is the NBA draft. The highest pick we've seen since Harrison Barnes back in 2012 for the Heels and Kobe White. He's 7 at the Bulls. Then higher than expected, Cam Johnson B. Wood, who goes at 11 to Phoenix. And now there is Nas Little. How about him as a fit for the Blazers at 25?
Well, I think he's a work in progress. He's what you would like to call an upside pick, because right now I'm not sure if he can get on the court right away. Some limitations with the ball handling, limitations with the shooting. What you do have is a hard-nosed kid that's willing to go out there, be aggressive, be athletic, put his body on the line. That's what he did for Carolina this year. I'm glad his name was finally called. I know he was sitting in that green room for a long time, and he finally gets to figure out where he's going to go.
Well, and this is a case from a Portland perspective. You probably had all these names on your draft board, and he wasn't one of them because you don't think he's going to get there. So at this point, when you're coming in at 25 and someone like Nas Little pops up on your screen, you take the best talent that's there, even if he maybe didn't even fit, because suddenly you've got someone that is projected much higher right in front of you.
I totally agree, Andy, and you said it best. You're Portland. You don't think he's there. Now you take best available, and this is the point where Portland's saying, hey, we're going to swing for the fences. He might turn out to be one of those players that can get into the lineup, and you just never know. He's probably the best available left on the board.
Well, how many more trades will we see? We're not sure. We know this. Nas Little off the board, but we had a record high 24 in the green room. There are still some who are here waiting. Bull, will his name be called next? You'll find out. We continue our 2019 draft coverage from Barclays. As we are down in the nitty-gritty round one, presented by State Farm, we have seen the Hawks and the Pelicans out at the forefront of the list of teams that have done a real good job. And then, oh, by the way, how about Morant and Clark to Memphis plus deals? Garland to a place where they have Sexton. Does it work? And that place in Cleveland next on the clock at 26. Jared with #1 overall pick, Zion Williamson.
Well, it seems like the only person in the world that was shocked about Zion going first was Zion himself. Seems pretty emotional for you, Zion. What's going through your mind right now?
A lot. You know, you dream about these things, and you work hard for the chance it'll happen. And to hear my name called #1, couldn't ask for much more than that.
Zion, to have your mom up there with you, what does this mean to your family?
It means everything, especially having my mom up there. She was with me from day one. She was the one who pushed me past limits that I didn't even think I could reach. So, like, just having her up there just meant the world to me.
Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. Do you believe that?
I definitely believe it. With our future is really bright. So, I mean, playing with the young bull, it'd be great.
Do you know him at all?
I know him a little bit, yeah.
What type of, can the two of you work together on the court? How does that work with 2 point guards?
No, we can definitely work together. And, I mean, you can see it with Dame and CJ. So I think that we can work together for sure.
Okay, so there's Zion, and you heard there from Darius Garland as well, a guy who ends up with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, by the way, certainly have shooting and scoring with him. And they got a guy who can really put it in the basket as well. It's did they get Keldon Johnson is the pick. I believe Dylan Windler was the pick. That's why I was leading into Dylan. Okay, so Dylan Windler was selected as the pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here is a guy who I think, Andy, when you think about him, especially, and I go back to the first four, which we covered, he can shoot the basketball and score in bunches.
If there is a pick in this draft that is tied to a head coach more than this one, I don't know. Because this is John Beilein written all over it. He is a skilled shooter, a very good offensive player overall. I mean, this is a perfect John Beilein type player. Clearly, they think he's a shot maker, and that they assume that it can translate to the next level. So, you know, it clearly, I think, is a John Beilein type selection.
Well, listen, anytime you can add shooting, that's always a good thing. I mean, that when you can space the court out, it makes the job easier on everybody else. They have these two guards now, and you heard Garland say that they want to be like Dame and CJ. Well, guess what? Dame and CJ in the playoffs didn't have the space to operate because they didn't have enough shooting on the court, and that's what the Cavs, I guess, are trying to do.
Again, if you just joined us, as we said, it is Dylan Windler who is the pick.
Yep.
You see here the pivot off of Keldon Johnson. But as we were just talking about it, we broke him down. Here's a guy, Smitty, who we all saw in big. He was a guy who seemingly could just put up tons of points.
Yeah, he can. I mean, he flat out can shoot the basketball. You can see his percentage, 54 from the field, 43 from the three-point line. But he also averaged close to 11 rebounds, had 41 against Morehead State, had a big game against Maryland, had 35 points. So he proved that against some big-time talent and teams that he could put up big numbers, and I like that he's 6'8" and also can rebound.
Now, do you agree with me that this is a Beilein type pick?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you're talking about an inverted offense, bigs up high, shooting the basketball, and can rebound. This is a Beilein pick.
All right, we now have the Nets chanting Brooklyn. The last time they did it, they might have not been aware of how many trades happened in the first round because it wasn't their pick, even though it was their logo on the screen. This is, let me look around. This is still their pick. It hasn't been. Oh, no, it's not their pick.
No.
Wow.
It is not their pick.
Welcome to
We
the party.
will not have any Nets drafted. These are not the Nets draft picks you're looking for. It is the Clippers and Doc Rivers who get the pick at number 27. So, Tom, here's a Brooklyn team, and the fans are about to be very disappointed. These people are anxiously awaiting. They're looking through names on Andy Katz's mock draft. They're about to be very disappointed. What about what the Nets are doing? Seemingly not too concerned about adding young players right now.
They're all in for next week. They're all in for July 1 when free agency starts. Sean Marks, when he made the deal to send Alan Crabb out and create all that space, declared the direction, and he's pushing all his chips in. On the flip side of this, the Clippers jump in. Welcome to the party, LA. All right, we get some more teams jumping in late first. They didn't have any picks whatsoever, and they're also deep in the free agent game. Each of these teams are similar. The Clippers and the Nets, kind of from out of nowhere, exceeded expectations by playing hard and together, and they came up with their own identity. Then they each trade away veterans in a way to clear room. We know the Clippers are going after Kawhi. I would expect Kawhi to go there, and it'll be interesting to see who they want to get to add to their young talent and complement.
When
You expect Kawhi to pick the Clippers?
I do.
Wow. And why is that? He just won a chip with Toronto.
Because of that.
Can we stop saying chip, please?
Say what?
Are we not lazy? Can we stop saying chip?
What, does that bother you, man?
It's a championship. Go ahead.
The chip with the dip, like Drake
Hey,
said.
chip. Come on with that. But when you look at the Clippers, I think it's interesting when you look, B-Wood, at the roster because, Andy, and I know I don't know what this pick is. They like shooters. I don't know how many guys at the same size you can get, but Carson Edwards is out there, can shoot the basketball at a high level. We know with their offense, they like to do that, which is why I think a Horford would be interesting from a big perspective. They have Harrell, you have Zubac, kind of have some bigger guys. You wonder if they go guard here.
You know, if you go Carson Edwards, I love Carson Edwards. So, you know, I'm not mad at that pick because he can flat out play. Yes, he's small, but he's played big. He's been on big stages. Keldon Johnson, I guess he's still out there as well.
Yes.
So that's a talent as well. As we see, everything gets shuffled around.
And also, Tom, it feels like every year some team that wasn't in the first round finds a way to get in the first round, and the Clippers were one of those teams.
Yeah. Well, you can throw around cash. You can go buy a pick, and perhaps Steve Ballmer's doing that in this case, going and buying the pick with cash. I haven't heard the terms, whether it's a future first or it's more likely cash.
Late in the first round a couple of years ago, we sat here, pick bought with cash. It was Chicago's, went to Golden State, Jordan Bell, who ended up being a factor immediately. By the way, I got a paper that said not Carson Edwards. I won't say what's on there because we don't want to pretend like these picks are out there anywhere. The Brooklyn Net fans, we should just play the audio of them when they realize they're not picking this pick because they are chanting Brooklyn.
Come on, they look so hyped and passionate.
No, I feel terrible
they
for
rocking
them.
too.
I feel so bad.
Yeah, they are. Hey, let them rock out. Let them have their moment. Let them have their moment.
I will just say this. There's still value deep in this first round.
Yes.
Bobo's still sitting behind us. Keldon Johnson. You mentioned Carson Edwards. There's still, I think, players that can come in even at 27 and contribute next season.
Kevin Gelly, I think he's there.
Yeah, Kevin Gelly.
Yeah, and right now, I'm pivoting off of that and just talking to the player's mindset. This is a very disturbing area to be in. If you're a guy that went to the draft, went to the green room, and you're sitting there and your name hasn't been called yet, you're nervous. You know the second round is coming. I've been in that situation. I was supposed to be a pick between 10 to 15. I slid to 20. And what happens in these situations is you really start getting nervous because you haven't worked out for teams past a certain spot. I didn't work out for anybody past 15. Soon as the 16th pick went, I leaned over to my mom. I don't know any of these other teams. I haven't worked out for them. I don't know what's going to happen to us. And I ended up getting picked at 20 by the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was a blessing to get out of there. I'm hoping all these kids in the green room have their name called before the second round, and they find a way to get out of there. It is nerve-wracking in that green room right now if you're one of those kids.
All right, we'll tell you this, and we'll get to it in a second. No nerves right now for Dikembe, who can relax, because we'll chat Kabengele in a second. By the way, you think of Harrell and some of those athletes they have. Here's a guy who at 6'8", 13 points, 6 boards, and a block and a half, and didn't even start a single game. We're going to wax poetic about him, but I want to show you something because we're going to go out to the crowd and row to the Net fans who believe that he is going to their team.
Oh, poor Net fans.
Bro, please take us out to the fans. Are they excited about Kabengele?
So right now, just in case you're not familiar with how things work, I'm right now in the Brooklyn Brigade. This is the crowd that chants Brooklyn, Brooklyn during the game. Here we go. There we go. There we go. So, unfortunately, I have to be the bearer of bad news right now for the Brooklyn Brigade, a.k.a. called the Block, right here amongst each other. So I hate to tell you all this, but the pick that was just selected is going to be traded. So the player that you just selected is not going to be in a Brooklyn Nets uniform. So I have to get your instant reaction. I got to start right here. What are your thoughts? I know you wanted Bol.
Well, I just got to say, we got to trust the culture we got with Sean Marks. Got to look forward to the season. It's Brooklyn all day, BK all day. Laying the Browns of Brooklyn.
Diamonds in a row. Hey, very positive so far. So I want to know, Kyrie Irving is a free agent. What are your thoughts on him potentially coming to this arena?
We got to love it. Free agents for Brooklyn. Free agents for Brooklyn. It shows the culture matters.
Yes,
the culture matters.
Kyrie, baby, bring Kyrie. I think that means you want to see Kyrie in a Brooklyn uniform. Is that what you're saying?
You can see it. Whatever Sean Marks envisions, we'll take it. That's what we'll take.
So they trust the process in Philadelphia, but right here they trust Sean Marks. They're down with whatever he does. So no matter what player he brings in, the Brooklyn Brigade, they're down with it. Back to you, Casey.
Hey, Ro, before you go, does the guy behind you think they're on Family Feud? Because he keeps clapping like they're going for a steal. Did you notice?
Good answer. Good answer.
All right, so
Good one, Casey. Good one, Casey.
I mean, I thought about that. They are excited, though, the Net fans. So thank you, Ro. Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, this could end up being the steal of the draft.
Okay, tell me why.
Well, because Kabengele certainly developed into a big-time talent at Florida State. His value was much higher than 27. And to your point, Brandon, yes, it's disheartening to go this deep in the draft, but he's going to a team that is ready-made in the LA Clippers to advance potentially deep into the playoffs. So all the pressure in the world is not going to be on him. He can come in and be a rotation player and contribute. And I think 2, 3, 4 years from now, we could be looking back at this draft as a player that really helped the team go deep in the playoffs.
He definitely helps this LA Clippers team right away. And I look at Kabengele coming off the bench with a Montrezl Harrell that they already have on that bench. Man, you are teaming him up with another guy that's a flat-out animal. Those guys are going to be aggressive. They're going to be out there trying to dunk everything. And I know Tom thinks that Kawhi is on the way. he is definitely, if Kawhi is on the way, you look at how they're building this bench, that is something very positive for the future for these Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah, their theme there is relentless, and it goes from their owner, Steve Ballmer. He just wants a relentless pursuit no matter what. And you mentioned Montrezl Harrell. All the other young guys bought into that. So this is a nice plug right into their style and their identity.
Yeah, it is. Kevin Gilly is the guy who came off the bench, so he's coachable. And Leonard Hamilton talked about he led us in scoring, but he didn't mind coming off the bench to win. I love him. He's Dikembe's nephew. He has a tremendous upside. He has unbelievable size and hand. He's shooting the ball extremely, better than he did. And I love what he's doing. He's going to be nice for the Clippers coming off the bench.
Does anybody else find it interesting irony that they get a guy who's an incredible athlete who led his team in scoring off the bench to go to a team who has their leading scorer come off the bench in Lou Williams?
Okay.
Seems like okay.
See what you did there.
I see how you connected the dots.
A little bit of a follow. We're going to talk about the dots that connect to the 28 pick on the Warriors, but I think we have to get into this team. First, we have a tweet, apparently. Someday the Nets will actually make a first-round draft pick. Someday. By the way, they did get a 2021st in the deal to give up that pick for Kevin Gailey. But we got to get into the Warriors. It's one of the bigger stories of this entire offseason, especially now when you look at, Tom, what happened to them with these just horrific injuries with KD and Clay, the uncertainty about all of that. How do you see their next couple of months transpiring, Golden State?
Well, it sounds like they've declared it. They're going to offer full 5 and 5-year contracts for Durant and Clay. If they do that, they're going to go into their new stadium and effectively make it a redshirt year for those guys, or a year off for those guys. And there'll be excitement around the continuation of the dynasty. It will be super costly, and I mean super costly, because they're repeater tax territory, and it's a super tax. If their base payroll will be around $170 million when they give Durant his $38 million, Clay his $33 million, along with Steph's $170 million. Their luxury tax will be another $170 million.
Ouch!
It doubles because of this repeater nature. The deeper you go, the more you pay. Then you add on $1 if you've been in there 4 straight years. That's them. So it's a $340+ million annual payroll they sign up for.
To maybe be an 8 seed, right? I mean, they'd be bottom of the conference.
They might not even be the 8 seed.
They might not be the 8 seed.
Not even, depending on what they
raise
do,
ticket
right?
prices in the new arena to cover that?
I don't know if they can raise ticket prices any higher because everybody's paying out the nose.
But like
already.
you said, for that red shirt year, but for the following year, you have a
They'll
team
be
now
back.
that'd be
Following year, they're back.
They're back.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they can get it done, though, because I'm sure Clay will stay. I would bet money on that.
Yep.
Kevin's a little more interesting. And his last year, though, guys, of his deal is a $50+ million year that no one else can give him if he leaves.
B. Wood, when you sit there and you look at the Warriors roster, I think of David West and guys like that who at times have jumped in, right? So you're right, B. Wood, it's because they want that opportunity to be part of that. But this is a different be part of but if you have a 1-year deal, you're going to play a lot more minutes than you might. Do you think veterans will come and say, hey, Steph, I'll take a 1-year deal at the minimum to try and hook you up in this new building?
I think there'll definitely be some guys that say, hey, listen, the free agency didn't go the way they planned. They want to take the 1-year prove-it type deals and say, hey, we get out there with the Golden State Warriors, get out there with Steph, get in that culture with Steve Kerr, and maybe some good things happen, and maybe I'm able to up my stock and then move on from there. And so I think there will be some guys that will do that. I'm not sure how good Golden State's going to be, but we shall see. And, I also think from a draft pick standpoint, Klay Thompson might not play next year. Keldon Johnson fits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this pick's important because they'll play. This pick is actually going to play and develop.
We find out where they are right now, Golden State.
The Golden
They travel from surprise to surprise. We had Cam Johnson real early, Jim Okeke real early, the drops of some players like Nas Little, and now maybe, Smitty, the biggest surprise of all, and it is John Beeline's former player and Jordan Poole out of Michigan who goes to the Dubs.
Yeah, and everybody questioned whether he would keep his name in the draft. This young man definitely believes in himself. Getting drafted by the Golden State Warriors, this is a huge pickup for him. He gets a chance to learn. He gets a chance to, like Tom said, and Brendan, he might get a chance to play right away. This is a great pick for Jordan Poole and the Golden State Warriors. They see something in him.
Excellent opportunity for Jordan Poole. This is one that surprised me as well. we talked about this on the way over here. I was like, Jordan Poole kept his name in the draft. I was a little bit surprised by that. But guess what? He took a gamble on himself, and it worked out. And the guy does have skill level, and you see it right there, the ability to put the ball on the floor and make some plays. Maybe not as successful at Michigan as he would have hoped this season, but guess what? He bet on himself, and he came up and he was able to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, he'll never hit a bigger shot in his life than this one to knock off Houston the year
said
before.
in his life, never again,
He's still
Andy.
running. Well, I mean, come on. How can you hit a bigger shot than that and what it meant? I don't see it happening, but I will say this. I just texted.
Way to kill the kid's dream, Andy.
I'm not saying he's going to be a good pro, but I'm saying.
Doesn't get any better for you than this, George.
The biggest shot. It's hard to repeat that. Come on.
Enjoy your one shining moment, George.
Wait a minute. I'm going to say something positive here.
Good Lord, Andy.
It's all downhill.
I just texted my source with the Warriors, asked him why. He gave me one word back: shooter.
They think he shoots better than Keldon Johnson?
Apparently they do.
I guess they do.
And you think about this. We know obviously Bogut, that's got Boogie, probably that ship has sailed. Fernando a big, Claxton out of Georgia a big. They're still available. Charles Matthews and get healthy. His former teammates. The Poole, they're going swimming in San Fran. Meanwhile, we're staying indoors where it's B. Haywood kind of cold.
Andy is a hater, man.
Andy.
You can't duplicate.
We're not sure why it took so long, and many had another Johnson and Cam behind Keldon, but now the Kentucky scorer, last year's freshman of the year, Andy, third on their team in scoring at 13.5 a game, going to the San Antonio Spurs.
Well, first of all, we brought this up before. I think this is a great fit for him, even though he may be very disappointed that he slid all the way down to 29. You're going to an established franchise where, everything is basically on, not cruise control, but it's a machine. They know they have their own direction that they're going to go on, and he can go in there without dealing with a lot of pressure, Brandon, to where he can just sort of develop and become a contributor with that team.
I agree with you, Andy. Listen, Keldon Johnson's probably very disappointed that he didn't go higher up and higher, especially in the lottery, because that's where he was projected to go. But the fact that he fell to a great organization like the Spurs, I think that he'll realize quickly in his career might be the best thing for him. He gets to go to a very stable organization that's going to consistently put him in the right position to succeed. He's going to get great coaching. The staff is excellent. We already know about the Spurs wearing Coach Greg Popovich. He did slide, and it was probably a lot of uncomfortable feelings and jitters in that draft.
See how just relieved he looks.
That's a feeling of relief right there. I've been there. And so once you get that feeling of relief, now you start looking at the fit, and this is the excellent fit for him. I don't think, if he was going to slide, I don't think he could have slid to a better situation.
Brendan, this kid has fell into a gold mine for himself.
Yep.
He's a pretty good three-point shooter. He will get better in the Spurs system. He can defend. He has a high motor. He will learn how to play the right way. Not saying he didn't. I think this is fantastic. The Spurs has done it again. They find some talent at this pick. He could end up playing on a team that will be in the playoffs next year.
When you think about big games, even as a freshman, at 21 in their win over UNC, at 19 in their win over Tennessee, he had some big games. When you look at Cal's teams, and Andy, you know his groups as well as anybody, we think of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who a lot of people couldn't figure out, had the one good game in the tournament. What is he? I go back to Devin Booker behind the Harrison twins. How much more difficult is it to figure out what a guy like Keldon is when there are so many different pieces they're trying to work in and get the basketball?
Well, look, he has been in a situation in Kentucky where he had to fit in, and now you have to fit in. But think about it, going from John Calipari to Greg Popovich,
right.
Two very demanding coaches, okay? So that's not going to be a big change for him, going from one demanding to another. And I think this year at Kentucky will have benefited him playing for Greg Popovich at San Antonio.
Listen, if you can play for Cal, you can play for Greg Popovich. Both of them, you're right, do have the same type of demanding style. At Kentucky, he did have to fit in because you had P.J. Washington there. You had Tyler Hero there. He didn't just get to come in and take any shot he wanted to. He had to fit into a total team scheme. And that's what you're going to do when you're a Spur. You're going to fit into a team scheme. There's going to be certain shots they want you to take, certain shots they don't want you to take until you're ready for those shots. And if you listen to the Spurs organization and their coaching staff, you will develop into a very good player.
High motor. That's what I love about him. He has a high motor.
And don't forget, maybe the most untalked about, unkept Lonnie Walker last year, You're going to see a lot of him for the Spurs. We all love him at this desk. You know who else we
Murray
love?
as well.
The story about Bol, except for this story, that he's still here. The green room at 24. He's still remaining. Will his name be next before the first round is out? We'll close out round 1. We come from the same school in the same year. It included AD and MKG and Okafor and Ben Gordon in that other group of 4. And now you can add Zion at 1 and R.J. Barrett coming to the Knicks at 3 into that group. Casey Stern, Smitty, Andy Katz, B. Wood, Tom Penn. We're still here. No pee breaks. Just keeping everybody busy. We're getting into round number 2.
I think me and Tom definitely need one.
Well, no one could see the legs going under the table. Watch out for the Louis Vuitton bag. The Cavaliers have been active, Tom, trying to get more picks in this draft, to get bodies. And even though there's always going to be a question, we discussed it earlier, where John Beilein fits, they go ahead and they get a big-time question mark in Porter.
Yeah.
Now, at a USC, before we break down the player, how much more difficult is it to understand when you've got a new coach in this system bringing in a guy with question marks off the court, if you will, in Porter?
Look, this is a developmental coach. That's why they hired him. They know they're into a long build and trying to establish their culture. So you've seen this variety of young talent that they've taken. And Porter Jr. is different than the others, right? More upside.
Could be better.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
He's a player that certainly was projected to go higher. He is a scorer, which now he can be a scorer, I should say. Obviously, was not a big-time scorer for USC this past season. A very disappointing season, by the way, for the Trojans. Benny Boatwright was supposed to be a star for them, and they were supposed to be a tournament team. It didn't happen. But when we look at the Cavaliers' first-round picks, what do you see right there? You see a lot of offense for John Beilein. You see a playmaking point guard, a shooter in Windler, and then a slasher, if you will, if you want to call him that, in Porter. So that does sort of fit a Beilein mentality.
No, it is, Andy. And you go back and you talk about those guys as slashing and also a point guard, but there's still guys, like you said, that shoot. Garland can shoot it, Windler can shoot it, and Kevin Porter Jr. shot 41% from 3, so all of them can shoot. So there's a theme for the Beilein being able to draft in this year's draft.
Yeah, a lot of versatility, and Porter, somebody, like you said, there were some questions about him off the court, was suspended this year, but Smitty, you alluded to, he shot 41% from 3. He wasn't a high-volume three-point shooter or even score only 9 points per game, but the talent is there, the upside is there. Everybody you talk to says high talent but high question marks. So it's going to be very important that the Cleveland Cavaliers make sure they have the right type of things in place to make sure that this kid gets what he needs on, but more importantly, off the court as well, because he has to understand that the off-the-court stuff has to be taken care of so he can shine on
He
the court.
also missed some games because of injury, 10 games. So,
and that contributed to their season.
It did.
By the way, Jordan Bell just tweeting, y'all are sleeping on Bobo, and I agree with him. He's still in the green room behind us. He's a player that I thought should have gone in the first round. Had he not gotten hurt, there's no question he would have been in the first round. He's got unbelievable talent for his size, the way he can shoot threes. Remember, he was averaging over 20 points a game before he got hurt.
Yeah, I don't think it's a question of his talent. You're right, Andy. I think it's all about, right now, his question mark of how he comes back from this injury.
Yeah, question marks of the injury and also the fit. Like, what is he? I know he spends a lot of time on the perimeter, but does he have the foot speed to be out there? Doesn't really quite have the strength to be a big. I believe he has upside, and hope somebody's going to get very lucky when they take him.
Let's reset as we kind of begin round 2, because we've seen obviously a big night for the Hawks, and we'll discuss this when we get to kind of winners and losers at the end. New Orleans and what David Griffin has done. We've seen some darts thrown at the board from Phoenix and Cleveland. Obviously, we know about the front end with the Duke kids, but now we get to the next group. When you look at based on, and look, mock drafts, as many as, what did you have to do, 100 of them, I'm sure? We saw a lot of changes, but here's who's fallen. Bol, got Bruno Fernando, got Claxton out of Georgia, you've got KZ Okpala, Horton Tucker, Carson Edwards, and my favorite, Luguentz Dort, who I'm pretty sure could be like Juggernaut and X-Men and just walk himself through a door. How about some of those names? Who stands out to you guys as maybe that next best player on the board?
I really like Carson Edwards, and just the fact that he's a shot maker, he has the ball in his hands, and it's all about playing in the pick and roll. he's somebody that can come off the pick and roll and really light it up and shoot it. And then he's also been able to hit big shots in big moments. He's never going to be scared of the moment. So I think whether he's starting somewhere or whether if you just bring him off the bench, he's always going to have the same confidence, the same energy.
You want a guarantee?
Yes.
I'm going to guarantee that Carson Edwards gets a guaranteed deal in the second round.
All right.
Okay, I like that.
All right. I can see it. And you said that with your chest poked out, too.
I know.
You must have got some inside information.
No,
in
I'm
there.
just no. This is all me.
Let me see what's going on your phone over there. Somebody just text you that?
Let me see what's
He
going on.
could be shooting nearby, perhaps. The Knicks are a team that might take a look. We'll come back, get you through the second round, begin to talk about what it all means moving forward as we head to free agency. Our draft coverage rolls on from Barclays.